Okay, you're live.
Thank you. So welcome everybody to the March 17th, 2021 meeting of the Village of Sleepy Hollow Zoning Board of Appeals. We have 3 items on the agenda today, and we'll start with the GNS Group Limited application on behalf of GTYNY Leasing related to the station on North Broadway. We've already read the public notice. The returns have been documented as in. And I think that the last hearing, the applicant did not appear, but I think we have the applicant tonight. So welcome, and we'd like to hear your application.
Thank you.
Tim, I'm sorry to interrupt, but would you like me to read the statement of the governor's executive order prior to the meeting?
Thank you. Thank you, Sean. Thanks
Sure.
very much.
Yeah, I'll just for the record, tonight's meeting is convened in accordance with the governor's executive order number 202.1 issued March 13th, 2020, which suspends certain provisions of the New York State Open Meetings Law to allow municipal boards to convene a meeting via video conferencing. In accordance with the executive order, the public has been provided with the ability to view tonight's meeting and the public hearing, and a transcript will be provided at a later date. I've also confirmed with the village clerk that this meeting has been duly noticed by posting a notice in the Journal News newspaper and posting a copy on the village's website. Also be advised that tonight's meeting is being aired live on cable television and streaming live on YouTube. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. So as we understand it, there are 8 variances that you're applying for. Again, we read the public notice already, and we'd like to hear your application.
Okay, yes, my name is Nancy Forrest and I am with GNS Group and we represent Chestnut Markets. We are doing well over 100 stations on the East Coast for them. And we're trying to keep all of their signage conforming. The majority of them have corner lots. So we are doing signs on both the front and the sides of the buildings. The layout that you see before you is the one that we are using with across the front of the building, the logo centered above and the lettering below. And that's usually the smaller of the signs. And then they're all pretty much the gabled buildings. So on the side walls, again, we're doing the stacked letters on the side with the logo at the top, the Chestnut and the Market underneath. And so those are the 2 signs that we have in front of you. And I believe that it's we are within our square footage and we are within our width that we're allowed on each facade. So I believe it is the stacking of the more than 12-inch on each letter above one and above the other.
I'm not sure I follow that. What did you mean by you're within the square footage and it's the stacking that's the issue?
I believe that our square footage on the front, when you take the logo, the square footage of the logo and then the lettering, we are at a little over 18 square feet. And on the side sign, we are just under 28 square feet. And that's by measuring each line of copy and the logo. Because of the layout of it, that's how it's normally computed.
Okay, so I'm looking at the variance number 3, and maybe I'm missing something, but the maximum permitted area is 9 square feet and the variance proposed is 19.5 square feet. So double the allowed variance for maximum allowed square feet.
Is that on the side wall, Tim?
No, this is I believe this is the front sign.
Okay. Can you So what you have done then is you're not computing the square footage by the logo and then the lettering, you're doing a full rectangular around the entire thing?
The world is better that I haven't computed anything. This is just done by the building department.
Okay. That's what they've done. So certain towns will do that. They'll just make a kind of a rectangle. So they'll go from the top of that logo, if you're looking at your photo, to the bottom of the letters and then the full width. And that is how they'll compute the square footage. When we do individual channel letters and a separate logo, we often, in many towns, and we often just do each separately. So, okay, so that is why we're going for the area variance for a much larger square footage based on the way it's computed.
Did you make an attempt to comply with this square footage regulation? You know, readjust the sign so you did not need the variance? Is there any reason why that's something you can't do?
Well, normally if you look at the front gable there, the facade where it goes, there's no, in the sign industry, there's a formula for computing what fits where. 9 square feet would be about the size of, hold on. If you look at just the word market that is there, that's right about at 5 square feet. So to put all of it in 4 more square feet, could it be done? Yes. Would it be readable? Probably not. Would it look good? Probably not. We could make it certainly smaller, but I don't think we'd be able to get to the 9 square feet to not have it look really odd in that peak.
Okay, but you could get to you could have a larger sign, just not lit. Is that correct, Sean?
That's correct, yes. And Nancy is correct. The way the village sign code calculates the area, it's based upon the entire surface of the stacked signage or stacked lines of signs. They're not taken individually, correct?
So
And these are proposed to you as channel lit letters. If you look at your second page for the front one, these are being proposed as channel lit letters. So the letters would be lit from within with LEDs and a very soft white lighting in the evening. And the outline of the logo is also lit. If you look at the second page, the side elevation and details,
so is there, you know, I think Thomas raised this at the last meeting. Is there like a business model or a franchise agreement that requires this type of lit signage at this size? Or is this, you know, something that you've looked at the building and believe that this would be the most appropriate sign for this building?
I don't know that the colors are necessarily have been copyrighted, but the logo, yes, it has as a franchise. The majority of the ones we are doing are the lit channel letters, but I believe we do have a couple of locations that prefer the letters not to be lit and have external lighting.
In other words, you would have a non-lit sign with perhaps spotlights on those signs rather than the vacuum plastic lit signs that you're proposing here.
Right, the LEDs lit from within on each letter actually create a much more pleasant view of them than spotlights or multiple lights. Sometimes that looks 10 times worse than an internally illuminated. This is not a box sign. This is not like a box sign on the highway with fluorescent bulbs in it. That's not how they look. It's a much softer light and it's all contained. So you're not seeing bulbs anywhere along the building or floodlights that tend to highlight a portion of the sign and then dim it out. Like it's more of an even lighting.
May
Go
I
ahead.
ask a question?
Yes.
Hi, Nancy.
Hello.
So I have a question about the terminology you're using for a channel lit sign. When I've experienced those before, my understanding of a channel lit is that the face does not have any light that comes out of it, and that the light just comes out of the side.
That's called a backlit letter or a push through. There's two types of channel lit letters.
Okay,
Some are set off the wall and the light goes behind it and
right.
glows on the wall. And the other ones have a solid back, the light comes out the front.
And which are you proposing?
This is proposed as the coming out the front, the letters lighting individually from the front.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And the sign that's going to, not the side sign, okay, the one that's on the residential street heading into the inner village. Why does that one need to be lit? You know, like you're proposing, why does that one need to be that size?
Again, the size is determined by the facade that it's going on. You take the square footage of the wall, the peak, and determine what's the size that's appropriate for that amount of square footage of the wall. Certainly, can we make it smaller? Yes. Mhm. And
So-
that's just conforming with the same as the front sign.
I have a question. The sign in the front, where is it going to be placed? Because for the most part, looking, I keep passing there and I pass a couple times, and all I can see is the mobile sign. I'm wondering where you're going to be putting the other sign.
The front sign on the front of the building, Greta?
Yes.
If you look at the peak, very center over the two doors,
Okay.
there's a short awning that comes off the front where the double doors are on the overhang, and just above that on the back wall.
On the back wall.
Right, as you can see in the before picture in the upper left, there is a vent there and it's the siding. And if you look at the picture where the sign is, that's going to be the wood trim, wood backer with the lettering.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Did you drive that area at night and observe any other signs like the ones you're proposing? Because my impression of that area is, when you're driving south on North Broadway and starting at Beekman and there are several commercial buildings, but I don't recall any lit signs like this one. So the two that you're proposing, one on the front, one on the side, which I consider more of a residential street, to me is out of character with the neighborhood.
I personally have not driven it at night. I did not do the surveys.
At one
So
point,
I am not familiar with everything that surrounds it.
okay, at one point I lived on DePeyster. It is strictly residential. And beyond that, you end up with, there's a church, there's a park, there's a library, but there's nothing that would be lit up at nighttime.
Can I recommend that possibly we the side sign, light that externally, and leave the front one lit from the front, since that goes right out into the area where the cars are pulling in and getting gas and that. Is
I
that
do have
any-
another, actually, I do have another question.
Sure.
And, correct me if I'm wrong. There is a Chestnut Market sign on the facade today, no, with a little squirrel on the front of the building?
That may be a temporary sign.
I just want you to know, I've never had a problem seeing it. I've been by there a number of times. I'm a little curious about why the box was checked that this is not a self-imposed hardship, because the signage is there.
That, as I said, that may be a temporary sign. I'm not aware of it. Sometimes when they've changed over the name, they have put temporary signs up there until the permits have been approved for permanent signage. So that may very well be what is there now. And as far as I said, the ordinance says if they're on a corner that they are allowed the two signs. But I certainly understand about it being internally illuminated if the sidewall sign is facing a residential area. I can see why that may be a problem.
What I would suggest that if you had any perhaps photo examples of the lit signs at night, so we could get a better idea of what exactly we're talking about. I don't know if you have that currently.
I don't have that currently with me, but I can supply that to you.
This question is probably for Sean. Is there a regulation as far as the hours that these can be lit, or is that once we approve, if something like this is approved, is it they can be lit 24/7, or is there a stipulation on that?
There's no stipulation that I know of. However, it could be a condition if it's a reasonable time frame that can be imposed.
Okay, thank you.
Sean, this is another question for you because you're probably closest to this. Sleepy Hollow High School, the sign in front, do we have one of those electronic signs that announces sporting events and stuff like that?
Well, the school sign does that. Yes, that's the school sign. The village actually has a television that's mounted on the facade of Village Hall that has announcements, very similar to that, but it's projected as a TV screen instead of a digital readout.
So the only reason why I'm bringing this up is like maybe this could almost be like that. I'm not saying we need TV signs, but like the amount of light that that's putting off on Broadway might be similar.
Well,
to...
you should probably be aware also that in addition to what's being proposed tonight, Mobile is looking to replace the canopy facade. And in doing so, I believe they're going to be installing LED lighting around the entire canopy.
On the same property.
On the same property, which is basically in front of this signage, because the building is set back beyond the canopy side. So that is a current application that we have pending right now.
So are the two organizations then separate? Chestnut Market and Mobile are separate organizations, or are they? Is it a partnership?
Chestnut Petroleum has all of the mobile signs, but they are also under a different corporate name. They also now have taken over these stores as well. So really it is the same, as far as I understand, the same people all involved. They're just different entities, one being the convenience store and one being the gas stations. And they own multiple mobile stations in the tri-state area.
would it make a lot more sense to maybe apply for all of your requests at once since it's on the same property?
I don't do the signage for the mobile stations. Corporate Mobile has another company from the Midwest that does all of their signage, regardless of where they are. So I'm not involved with the actual mobile signs. So, and I know nothing about what they're proposing to you.
I'm assuming that's the Corporate Mobile signage
Yes.
that can't
Yes.
change.
Mhm. They have, they can only use the one sign company. All gas stations are like that.
My questions again for Sean, since they are applying for a new canopy, is that supposed to be smaller now? Is that so that it goes back to my the original question, because to put the sign where the canopy is hiding it almost a little bit. So my question is the sign going to be, the canopy going to be lower? I
No.
don't.
So far, what I have seen from the application is that the canopy structure will remain, but the surface around the canopy will be replaced. And I believe the similar or same signage on the canopy is proposed. However, it will be also a lit facade, lit canopy. Also on the site, you have the pedestal signage that's also a lit digital LED sign, as well as the signage on the pumps as well.
Because presently you cannot miss that area. I mean, you drive by day or night, you cannot miss the mobile sign, the market sign. I remember the old market sign. You cannot miss it. You definitely see it. And my concern, just like everybody else, is a sign on the side, because I actually have friends that live on the Peister, and they say that the lighting there is all the time. The people right behind they say they have to have curtains and stuff to block the lighting there all the time, because it's on 24/7. So that would be a concern. This for me would be the sign on us that's going to go on the side. Definitely, I wouldn't suggest lighting it. They have enough lighting as it is now. So that's my concern right now. And thank you, Sean, for telling me about the canopy is not going to be changed. So it's pretty lit up there.
Yeah, the Chestnut Market signs are a branding sign. It's a new convenience store. They certainly want people to recognize them from town to town. They're doing many of them in Westchester actually right now. And we've been in front of many boards, and we're willing to compromise with what works with them. As I previously stated, perhaps we can reduce the size of the side sign, and if it needs illumination, that it be external, so it's not so bright. And then maybe leave the front one, which is where the majority of people are driving and parking, that will see that sign, and the logo and the name will start branding with the people, so that even people in your town, when they're elsewhere, will recognize the store name, and that it will be the same. These stores are actually really nicely done, and that's the purpose of it.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I guess my concern is that, and everything you say, Nancy, makes sense. I think if I were you, I'd be saying the same things. But there are a number of businesses in that corridor, and to the best of my knowledge, they don't have lit signs. The zoning code, that as the way I read it, and I could be wrong, but the way I read it, it allows you a lit sign, but it only allows you a lit sign to a certain dimension, and then it says stop. We don't want that much light. And while the argument is that, well, the mobile's lit like a Christmas tree already, so this won't add that much to it. The concern is that, well, the next business will want what you got.
As a,
And
as a comparison, if I could, with lighting, you mentioned the electronic sign from the school. And those are during your daylight hours, they're 10,000 nits. They're fully lit and they have to be because it's daytime. And they shut down to automatically to 750 nits at night, because if they were left at the 10,000, they'd blow you right off the street. So in comparison to the actual electronic signs, these signs are not as bright as those. It's a softer lit sign. That's just to give you an idea. As I said, this is, you know, your village, your town. We have the right, obviously, to come to you and request a variance. Does not necessarily mean we're going to have them granted. We're always willing to compromise as well. We want to do right by our clients, certainly, and we understand where they're going with this. It's a brand new market that is being franchised and is going to be in many, you will be passing many of them. And they're all attached to the mobile stations, many of them being revamped and upgraded.
thank you, Nancy.
Mhm.
Does the board have any further questions?
Sorry, and I'm just trying to get my arms around what would be approved as of right as opposed to the variance, because there's two issues that I see here. There's the size and then there's the illumination factor. So Sean, can you just bear with me? I can't see it in what was submitted. I can't discern the differential between the two issues.
Yeah, so the first, essentially you have two signs, one on each facade.
Correct.
Each one exceeds the maximum area.
Mhm.
Okay, and then the second part of that is that they are again, an illuminated sign that is not of a material that is permitted in the code. So
Right. So the code would allow smaller signs that are not lit?
correct. You're allowed actually to have one illuminated sign that identifies the business and type of business on the ground floor level. And on a corner lot, which this one is, you're allowed to have one on each facade.
Okay, so it could be illuminated, it could be two, they would just need to be smaller if they were to do it, quote unquote, as of right.
That's correct. Yes.
And therefore, I would prefer to do the side sign, reduce it in size and not illuminate it, and leave the front sign, as we discussed before. We explained how they were computing the square footage, and that would be if I had taken a background for the logo to be on and the Chestnut Market all on one big rectangle. And then we go the height by the width. In reality, if you calculate just the amount of signage, and this is how many towns do it, we are only at little less than 19 square feet on the front. So it's a difference in how it's done. I don't think if you look at the photo of the front, that it looks like it's too large in comparison, that it's scaled to fit in there as it should. Be happy to make it slightly smaller, compromise a little on the size of it. And the side one definitely can be brought down in size on the sidewall. That's not a problem. Especially since it is facing a residential zone and not lit. The sidewall sign calculated by logo in individual letters is actually about 27.5 square feet.
And the fact that there's also a mobile sign on the property doesn't come into that quantity of 2 signs? That's a separate,
I believe those are the freestanding signs.
That's correct. So gas stations have other special requirements that do allow the additional signage.
That's actually mandated by state, those pricing signs. They get fined very big fines if they're not out there and they're not lit. Big fines.
And my apologies again. So the side sign, it could be there at that same size, but not lit. Is that correct, Sean?
That's correct. They actually both are allowed to be lit because they're on a corner lot. So the requirements for the front and the side are actually identical.
but the size of the one on the side, they need a variance for because it exceeds the size, right?
Because it's lit.
Both front and side, according to the
Yep.
way
It's
the
got,
definitions of the sign surface area are calculated, they both exceed the area permitted.
Okay, now unfortunately, I'm getting confused. When I read through the documentation, it says that the materials used are not permitted. Can you explain that, Sean?
Correct. So there's a whole slew of signs that are prohibited, and some of them have to do with the materials. And in this particular case, the vacuum plastic formed signs are a prohibited type of material for signage.
They're actually not vacuum formed faces. Vacuum faces are blown out from the sides of the sign. These are flat.
Perhaps
sorry,
everybody who's not speaking could mute, myself included, so we could hear Nancy. There's feedback.
Thank you. So what is the material being proposed now?
The sides of the letters are about 4 inches deep and they're formed from an 040 gauge aluminum, which according to your code, they will be the same white as the face. The faces of the sign are an acrylic. And then there's a trim that connects that face to the side. But you're using the word vacuum formed faces. And if you look at some of your freestanding signs that you see, from the side, you'll see that the faces are blown out 2 to 3 inches. That's a vacuum formed face.
So you're using metal on the sides instead of that?
It's aluminum, yes.
Oh, aluminum.
Yes.
Okay.
I believe the second page there. Yeah, if you look at the 040 gauge 5-inch white returns.
And so if this signage was not illuminated, what would it be made out of? Or what would you propose it to be made out of?
They would be fabricated the same because you don't want just a flat, like 1/4 inch letter out of metal, plastic, or anything stuck on the face of a building. It's very cheap looking.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, you want some dimensions. So they would be fabricated.
You would just
basically
eliminate the
very
light
similar.
source.
The internal inside would have the LEDs, yes, which
Right,
are
and-
energy efficient and have 100,000 hours warranty on the lighting. So you don't have them, a couple lights going out and on, and
Right.
you go by places and 2 letters are lit and the rest aren't.
Blinking, no. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nancy, it sounds like the application is materially different than what it was when we started the meeting. If I can summarize, perhaps there needs to be some dialogue between the building department and you about whether a variance is needed for exceptions 1 and 5, whether these are vacuum plastic form face signs. And perhaps you're going to reconsider the side sign and whether you're going to even ask for a variance.
We will be asking, I'm sure, for a variance, if not for the lighting, probably for the size. I'd like to be sure when I say, look at page 2, maybe it's page 3 for you if you're counting the front cover page. But there shouldn't be any confusion on the materials in the way it's made, because on page 3, you're getting a complete side elevation detailing all of the materials, from the LED illumination, the translucent white plexiglass, the 1-inch trim, the white returns, and the remote power supply. All of that is there. It's a composite backer, so you can see from the side there is no vacuum form face. And that's the engineered drawings that you're looking at.
It's just beyond my powers today. You know, right now what's before us is a request for a variance to
For size and illumination, correct?
no, for a vacuum plastic form face sign. We have 2 requests, number 1 and number 5, for a vacuum form plastic face sign.
When you say 1 and 5,
The
Tim.
public notice.
oh, I see. That's how it was done in the public notice.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Well, I'm open to your suggestions, however you choose to handle this. If we need to come back, continued public hearing, and Sean, I can get you some other information. Would this mean that we'd have to do all the notifications again? Because once, oh, okay.
No.
Because I just want to let you know about 11 of those came right back as undeliverable.
Happens.
Yeah. people need a lot.
The squirrel, what does that mean? Is that made out of the same material?
The exact same thing, yes. Except on that white face, as you can see, you know, it has the green vinyl outlay and then the white around it.
I just asked you, I'm looking at the drawing you referenced, and it indicates that, I guess the .04 is aluminum.
Yes.
So, okay, I understand that, but it also mentions that you're gonna paint that? You really want to do that?
Well, they have that, you know, I just noticed that they had it painted green, and I believe
Yeah.
that your ordinance, and I don't want to request another variance, asks that the front and sides be the same, and so that would be a baked enamel finish.
Okay.
And I would do it the white.
Yeah, I mean, we would probably recommend that anyway from the standpoint of maintenance and upkeep.
So would it make sense if you reevaluated the application with the building department? You know, perhaps we can eliminate some of the things that we've been asked to vote on. You know, there'll be reconsideration of the side sign. May look at the front sign and reduce it, like you talked about, and we can see you the next meeting. You don't have to do the notices again. Probably, and I think it would help if we had a bit more information about the businesses in the area, you know, leading up to the station, what type of signage they have, what it looks like at night.
And that's what you will be doing, a ride by the board?
Yeah, I think we'd all like to speak with a little bit more confidence on that. You know, it might be helpful.
I can revise the drawings for both, reduce the sidewall sign size, and see how much smaller we can reduce the front sign without it just looking unprofessional, let's put it that way. Like they weren't trying to get away with the smallest thing they could, because once you reach a certain point, it just looks like either the sign company didn't know what they were doing or the design was bad. So I'm happy to have both revised for you and go back to the client and explain that the sidewall sign is actually on a facing residential, and that you would prefer it to be not internally illuminated.
And would you have the ability, I realize we're now talking about different dimensions for the signage, but could you find a photograph of one that is
For a
lit.
nighttime, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I have night photographs that I can get for you. And Sean, I can get these revised drawings and these photos to you so that the board would have them
Great.
in time to review.
That would be fine.
If you could provide a couple of addresses, maybe I'll take a drive by
Absolutely,
as well.
absolutely.
To get
I
my
can
own
do
eyes on
that.
it.
Okay.
One
When
of the
would-
closest ones has just been done over on the corner of 119 and 100 over in Greenberg. So if you're around there, take a look, and right off of 287.
Oh, okay.
Did a nice job.
Do you like it, John?
Okay.
Yeah, it looks good.
Now,
That's close enough to go.
Sean, if I can email these to you, correct?
Absolutely. That would be the best.
And when did you say the next meeting would be?
So we are meeting on April 21st.
And this means I do not have to attend tomorrow night's meeting, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. You don't have to.
Okay,
I'll inform the board of the status of this application probably tomorrow morning with them. So they understand that you won't be there.
okay.
Margaret, thank you for that idea. Nancy, we really appreciate you working with us, and we'll look forward to receipt of your updated submission and go from there. At the
And
next meeting.
I'll also send you some information on the whole vacuum form thing, so
Great.
you know what that is.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so
Nancy, for
much.
being so informative.
Sure, not a problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion.
I'll talk to you, Sean, soon.
Great.
And okay,
Yep, thank you.
you're welcome.
So I'll make a formal motion to adjourn this public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll see you next month.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
All right.
So we're going to move to the next item on the agenda, which is the Vucasic application. Please take notice that the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Village of Sleepy Hollow will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, March 17th, 2021 at 8 p.m. to hear and consider the application submitted by Ivan and Sonia Vucasic requesting preliminary subdivision plat approval where the following variances from Chapter 450 of the Code of the Village of Sleepy Hollow are required. Article 6, 450-34B, applicability of regulations. The existing non-conforming four-family use is proposed to be subdivided where single-family uses are permitted. Article 9, 450-62.B, alterations or extension. The existing non-conforming four-family use is proposed to be subdivided into 3 lots where non-conforming uses shall not be extended. Article 6, 450-35, schedule of regulations. The proposed width of lot number 1 is 13.78 feet where 50-foot minimum width is required. The property involved in the application is located at 143 Weber Avenue, is situated in the R3 zoning district, and are shown on town tax assessment maps as section 115.8, block 1, lot 25. Plans and other materials associated with the proposed application may be reviewed and downloaded from the village's website. Due to public health and safety concerns related to COVID-19 pandemic, the public hearing will not be in person. In accordance with the governor's executive order number 202.1, the public hearing will be held by video conference and a transcript will be provided at a later date. The public will not be permitted to attend the public hearing in person at any remote location where a planning board or zoning board member may be situated, or at any other location. The public will have an opportunity to see, hear, and provide comments at the public hearing, however. The public hearing can be watched live on cable TV, online on the village's website, and through Zoom video conferencing. If any interested member of the public would like to comment on the application, he or she can call into the meeting or can speak through Zoom video conferencing. Written comments may also be sent in a manner ensuring receipt by 4 p.m. on the day of the public hearing by mail to Chairman Timothy Church, care of the Village of Sleepy Hollow, Department of Architecture, Land Use Development, Buildings, and Building Compliance, 28 Beacon Avenue, Sleepy Hollow, New York, 10591, or by email to Sean McCarthy at the Village of Sleepy Hollow. Please check the village's website for updated information and instructions to participate in the public hearing. Dated February 23rd, 2021, by order of the Zoning Board of Appeals, Village of Sleepy Hollow. I have in my possession in support of the application is the Zoning Board of Appeals application. We have plans submitted for the R3 zoning district and also a focus on the property in question. A letter dated February 16, 2021 from Hudson Engineering and Consulting Professional Corporation. And we also received today a letter from Mr. and Mrs. Cigarelli. Sean, have all the returns been received for this application?
Yes, they have.
Thank you. So I assume that the applicant is here, Mr. Stein?
Yes, good evening. How are you?
Very good evening. We can't see you. You're a green shade.
Yeah, I have a 7-year-old son that kind of caused a problem with my camera.
Okay, understood.
And I actually I need just to, I can put up and share my screen. I think that's I can start right there. We're here this evening. We have a 3-lot subdivision that we're proposing at 143 Weber Avenue. There's an existing 3-family residence currently on the property. And that's one thing that it's come to my attention. There was it was incorrect on the application, and it was also incorrect on the notice. I'm assuming we're going to have to renotice, and we'll have to revise the application to reflect the correct 3-family. But
Sean, is that confirmed? Are we? Because I think that's significant. Are we evaluating an application for pre-existing non-conforming 3-family or 4-family?
As been mentioned, it was incorrect on the application, so that's how it was noticed.
Okay.
So I'm assuming we're gonna have to renotice to reflect the 3-family. I can go through the presentation and we can go to the next meeting, or however you would like us to proceed. I can do the presentation now and come back and do it again, just so you guys at least are aware.
No, I think we should go through the presentation.
Yeah. Also, Mr. Chairman, it's a lesser variance, being that if it does go from 4 to 3. So unlike if they claimed it was a 2 and it's a 4, it would have more of an impact. In this case, if it is verified that it's actually a 3-family, it would be a lesser variance.
And my sincere apologies. It was our office's error.
And is that something you think, Sean, should happen where we renotice, where it is renoticed as a 3? I think that's something that the village council would support.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to be upfront. That's why I am acknowledging that I'm assuming we'd have to renotice because it was incorrect.
Okay.
But just to go on again, so for the subdivision number 1, it's an R3 zoning district. So the existing house at 3-family, we need a variance for that use. And the lots that are being created, there's 2 new lots that they each one have 50 foot of frontage. However, the existing lot or the existing house will only have approximately just under 14 feet of lot frontage. So we need a variance for there. Currently, the driveway for 143 Weber is through an easement that goes through a neighbor's property across the bridge right through here. Mr. Zagarelli had submitted a letter on the project, and I know Mr. Zagarelli is here this evening, and he had acknowledged that the easement agreement was for a 3-family house on that premises. Looking further at the impacts, potential impacts to the neighborhood, and this is part of the documents that had been submitted, is 149 Weber. This property was subdivided in 1992, creating these 2 lots. This existing house to the rear is an existing 5-family residence. Also looking at the access to that property is 21 feet wide, accessing back to there. So there's 21 feet of frontage on that property. 149.5 Weber. Again, that property, it was, or has a lot frontage of 10 feet along Weber. And lots 153, these lots were subdivided in 1987 or 1987. And again, these lots are also have a reduced width of 13 and 14 feet, all very much in the same character than the property is that we're creating. The lots that we're creating are fully zoning. The 2 lots up front we're creating are fully zoning compliant. It's really, it would be the existing multifamily to the rear that wouldn't be.
I need to ask, the subdivision of 149, 149.5, and 153.5, did that require did any of those require zoning board approval? Or was that through planning?
The records that we were able to recover, we had 149 and 153 and 53.5 with the lots that are in front of them. We didn't find it, and those were subdivided in 1992 and 1986 respectively. 149.5, we didn't find anything for in the records, so I can't really comment about those. We didn't see anything as far as variances on the other lots.
Okay.
I'm not saying they're not there. I just from the information we were able to recover.
Okay.
Is it time that I could comment?
No, we haven't started the public hearing. So Michael, I don't know if you want to keep going, or is that's all you want to run through today?
That's basically all I'd really run through right now.
So I have a handful of questions. What is going to be the proposed square footage of the new homes and the bedrooms for each of them?
The building coverage for lots 2 and 3 is roughly 1,400. So just under, if you're doubling that, it's going to be roughly 2,800.
So how 2,800 square foot homes, correct? And no
Yeah,
determination of the number of bedrooms.
No.
Okay. And so if I can, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if I can summarize the application with respect to the area requested variance, is that you have a property that is going to extend from the front of the current existing structure to the road, and it is less than the required width. The proposed width is 13, just under 14 feet, and you're asking for an area variance for that dimension, correct?
Correct.
And if you go back to the other map, where we can see the other properties that, you know, have a similar shape, you know, I'm just going to speak frankly, aren't those properties different? Isn't what you're looking for is a 14-foot width in a type of property where there's a bridge right next to that width, it's depressed, it descends under the bridge. It's really unwalkable. Whereas when I'm looking at these other plots, they have access, driveways. And so what I think your application is saying is this plot is similar to those plots in that you have the easement, and it's really the easement that makes your plot similar to the other ones.
No, we have down through here, coming through here, and this is where it's down, that's where it's just under 14 feet in width, but this is where the property extends down.
Right.
If we actually took these houses and shifted them over and put that along the right side of here, we could actually add a new driveway serving this house, but that's basically creating new impervious surface where there's an existing driveway and existing easement to serve that house already.
I see. So what you're saying is if you had to ship those houses against the easement and create a driveway, it would be duplicative of the easement that you already have. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. I reviewed the application. I looked at it closely. The question 13 in the application talks about environmental impact. I'm trying to pull it up quickly. But there's an acknowledgement in question 13A that the proposed area variance adjoins, contains wetlands or other water bodies regulated by the federal, state, or local agency. And
Oh, the EAF?
yes, right, 13A, correct.
Okay, that's something that automatically comes up, and what we've done two things. We did a wetlands analysis with Bill Kenny Associates on the property itself, and that was completed. They found no wetlands where the development's going on. They've just returned, I think it was last week. I'm not sure. They had just coordinated with Mr. Zigarelli, and they returned. I was actually anticipating getting the report today, but I'm anticipating, since I didn't get today, I'm probably going to get the report from them tomorrow about on the other side of the bridge within the 100-foot setback.
Okay, because to me, the application's incomplete in this area because I think what the application is asking you to do is identify the wetland or water body and extent of alterations in square feet or acres. And we just don't have that information in front of us for this application.
Yeah, so for our next meeting, we should be able to have that report in hand. So we'll be able to submit that along with revised documents.
Okay. One of the requirements for a use variance is 7A. Under applicable zoning regulations, the applicant is deprived of all reasonable economic use or benefit from the property in question, which deprivation must be established by competent financial evidence. Can you get a reasonable return on this property without subdividing?
I would need to speak with the owners. I need to speak with them on that matter.
Okay, because we don't have any financial information before us.
Okay.
I'm just curious about the argument that the alleged hardship's not self-created. And when did the owners purchase the property?
I would need to find out. Purchased. I'll find that out.
Okay. All right. Those are the, I don't think we're, I don't think, it sounds like you would like a postponement. But before I summarize, does the board have any questions for Mr. Stein?
I have no questions, but I have a request for if we are going to continue this at the next meeting. Most of the applications that come before us have some sort of photographs or images of what we're looking at instead of just sort of overhead drawings. If that would be possible to include that for the next meeting, I would find that extremely helpful.
Absolutely, we'll take care of that.
Any other questions?
I'm gonna hold until there's a more complete application.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So Sean, I guess we're going to renotice it, but for the moment, what I'll do is open the public hearing. So I make a motion to open the public hearing tonight.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on the application? And if so, could you please identify yourself and where you live?
Yes, I would. My name is Philip Segarelli, and with me is my wife, Barbara. We are the owners of 141 Weber Avenue. And we appear because of the notice, but also our deep concern on the proposal, as it will be seriously detrimental to our house and the various understandings that we understood were afoot on this whole proposal. This is way beyond what was suggested to us initially. It had been to the planning board and has been referred to you folks. And I find it, I'll be honest with you, I find it very disconcerting that this is more than the second time that it's had to be adjourned because there just was not the proper information provided within the notice. And as you know, I've provided a statement. I stand by what it said because it also reflected what the applicant put in, which was it was a 4-family house. And clearly the easement says 3 families. To even put it in on the application triggered, of course, a very deep concern that there's no understanding of the easements or the situation at hand. What I mean by that is that there is an easement over my wife and I's bridge, which is a very substantial bridge. And the so-called quid pro quo for the easement was to allow the owner of 141 to go on a driveway piece that was behind the carriage house, which is 143, 145. In discussions with the applicant here, it was suggested that they asked us if we would like to, if we could remove our road and break a wall and come up and not disturb it, and we wanted to do that anyway, so we did it. In looking at it, as what was noticed in our submission, is that breaks the easement too. And yet we weren't going to do it, but I have to tell you, saying it was 4-family when it's a 3, as far as we're concerned, we have attorneys looking at removing the easement. The other situation I find very disconcerting is that I'm born and raised in the area. I've known those pieces of property that you, Mr. Chairman, brought up as flag lots and have their own driveways, or they share a driveway. In my other lifetime here in another village dealing with subdivisions as the village manager, we have situation with flag lots all the time, but the flag lot has its own driveway. The reliance on the applicant to utilize my easement, which I think is in serious jeopardy, to have a toehold, a non-functioning toehold to Weber Avenue is a severe challenge to our property rights. Am I to allow people from other places that may buy these houses? These are not houses that are being designed, as I understand it, for his own family, like was done with the Kringuses or with the Cars. Okay, I know the area. I'm born and raised there. All right. So I understand what was then, but now, besides not being proper, it's going to encroach right on to the bridge. If something were to happen to the bridge that needs to be repaired, by the way, it's over 100 years old. It has its own insurance policy of $500,000. Utilities go through the area. What am I to do? Now, if I could, for just a few minutes, give you a little history of the site. If you're a lawyer, I'm sure you know the Northern Securities Trust, the first trust bust of Theodore Roosevelt. That involved Mr. James J. Hill. This property was the estate of James J. Hill, who was the Northern Pacific Railroad, commonly known as the Great Northern. He, together with J.P. Morgan, challenged Harriman and, believe it or not, the Rockefellers for control of the Northern East-West Corridor Railroad. So while there's a lot of history here, it's not a historic house. We've been restoring it since we bought it in December of 2012. The estate included all the lands that are owned by the Kringuses. That's the big house with the two in front, that he mentioned. That was, believe it or not, the dormitory for all the servants and the families. The main house is what we own. Then there's the tower that is behind it, which was extra housing for the children. They had 10 children. What I'm saying is, it was a very convoluted, big estate at one time. It was broken up. And so as a case in point, right now, the sewage from 143 and 145 go through my house, down through my property, and connects into a line. There's storm water that comes from Weber Avenue. We're in a valley, and Mr. Stein may contend that there's no wetlands on the property he wants to build, but in their plans, which you may or may not know, he has some kind of containment system that water will eventually go out. Right now, there's a stream. And on at least a seasonal basis for 9 months, there's water that runs under the bridge through my property to a junction point that goes under the aqueduct, goes down through the backyards of Maple, goes down through Katrina Avenue, goes out by the animal hospital, and eventually goes into the restoration. Okay. What I'm saying is there's a lot of things going on here, a lot of moving parts. And to put two houses, jam them up there, when maybe one could be accommodated, to me is really an imposition on my wife and I, and in the efforts we've done to restore this property. Yes, we enjoy it. Okay, that's fine. But I see no economic hardship if he's subdividing these and going to sell it. I would ask that Mr. Stein also look and see how the property values in that one area, especially several houses on Weber Avenue, have gone recently. I think this is not a financial hardship for the applicant, but it could be a severe injury to my investment, my wife and I's investment in what we are. So if you're going to ask for these different things, I really like to have it more than just skin deep, because there's, as I said, this is a very disconcerting situation to have to face this and have to constantly respond and only have hearings postponed because the applicant made a mistake. And these mistakes have been of a high frequency that I'm telling you, it just boggles my mind that it's gotten this far when I see, I have no idea as to what the hardship is, but I know what the impact is to my wife and family. So, we can go through a lot of other things. I have to tell you, the wetlands issue is one. If I were to ask, and I'm not, where the tennis court is, to subdivide that, I'd be very foolish to come before you even asking, because I know it's a wetland. And I stay by that. So I don't know what else to tell you. I'm just befuddled as to this type of situation. Unfortunately, the way it was done back in the 40s, when the family sort of fell apart and the wife was put in a mental institution. And I mean, there's a lot of stories on this house here. The bottom line is that they broke it up and they made it convenient for somebody to do this and do that. And the water line comes through my property. The tower gets water from me. The sewage comes down from my place, goes, I mean, it's just unbelievable. So I'm just telling you that this is not a simple subdivision. This is not a simple accommodation or variance. And I really ask that in this case, and I don't mean to try your time, is that you really look deeply at this. And excuse me, one last thing. I let Mr. Stein's people go through there. All I had asked was, when you come through, to ask, set it up, and have an understanding that if you're going to go traipsing through the property, that you have your own insurance in case something happens, because it's sort of mushy and everything down there. And lastly, it was an open invitation to the planning board and anyone who would like to come up, see it, and see what you're looking at. The sketches as an overhead do not resemble anything what you're going to see and what could be if this is put through, because I think you'd be very surprised on the tightness of the situation and how it will impact something like this bridge that, number one, is my we've invested in it. We light it up at night because it looks nice and people see it. It's an identifying thing. We don't have to do that. We do it. So I'd like you to seriously consider, just let us know if you'd like to come up and do a physical site. The issue of the flag lot is very important. If this type of thing goes through, I'm going to have to, either at the planning board or with you, insist that an accommodation be made, that he's going to have to put his own driveway in, because there may very well be a challenge by us to nullify the easement, because its purpose has ended before even this mix-up on the application of saying it's a legal 4 when it was only a 3.
Thank you, Mr. Zigarelli. I think one item that the board would probably like to review is the actual easement, if that can be submitted before the next meeting.
It has been, and it was part of the submission. If you need it again, Sean, I'll send it to you, but it's there. There was when Viola and Andrasic owned it, which is before the current applicants, that accommodation was made by the then owner, the Donahos. As I said, my wife and I know this house very well. While we lived on Amos Street for many years, when we were first married, we lived in the servants' quarters of this house. We took care of the house for the family. Believe me, we know where all the ghosts are. And seriously, I always think we joke about it, but the place we honestly believe is haunted. There's crazy things that go on, but that's beside the point, but I'm just saying is that we know a lot of history here, and we've taken to this heart because we took care of it when we were first married as custodians for the owner, and given the crazy way things twist around, we had the opportunity to buy it. We saw it after Xerox had destroyed the inside of it. Many of you may not know Xerox had a 20+ year lease on the house, where they had a Department of Defense grant where they were building lasers, military grade lasers. And you can imagine how they destroyed certain parts of the house. So when we bought it, it was very derelict, and we've done a lot of work. We take a lot of pride in it. Other people would have come in, tore it down, and built condos. We didn't.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Zigarelli. Is there anyone else from the general public that would like to speak on the application? Hearing none, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
So given the current state of the notice, I understand the application is going to be renoticed, so I'll make a motion to continue the public. Well, do I continue it? or-
No, it's gonna be a new public hearing.
Yeah, it's,
Has to
okay,
be
so
noticed.
essentially it's withdrawn. Yeah,
Correct.
okay. All right, so then we don't have to vote on it.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you. Good night.
All right. So all we have left are the minutes, and I think we got them today. Just take a quick moment to look at them. Does anyone have any proposed changes to the February 17, 2021 minutes?
I just had one sentence that I wasn't sure about. I emailed Pam and it's, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my correction rather than the document. There's a sentence that starts, the planning board has jurisdiction as the architectural review board. How should that read? It's the beginning of page 1.
Let's see. Sorry, Margaret, where are you on it?
I'm going to find the exact reference. Hold on just a second.
I see where you are. So on the second page, second full paragraph.
It's the second page?
Yeah.
Oh, my mistake. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No. It says the planning board has jurisdiction as the architectural review board. Sean, can you explain that?
Sure. There is no longer an architecture review board. So basically the duties of the architecture review board have been moved over to the planning board jurisdiction. So they review applications during the planning board process for architectural design. So I guess it is their jurisdiction.
Makes sense.
Okay. And there was nothing else.
Okay. All right, then I'll make a motion to approve the February 17, 2021 minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, thank you, everyone. I hope you have a Guinness waiting. And I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Sean,
Yes.
I have a question. I actually was thinking about maybe looking at that property in Weber Avenue might not be such a bad idea. Because like I was looking at the drawings earlier and I'm like, I'm confused.
Sorry,
Yeah.
are we ending the broadcast or?
Yes, you can end,
Yeah,
Michael.
sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.